Let's do it.
Reveal who is number 4 in the 2022 Chris Simms Top 40 Quarterback Countdown.
What up, baby? Look at me, man. I'm pimping there, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm Kramer. I think that's who I was, actually. But Joe Burrow, okay, he doesn't wear coats that crazy, not like Kramer just had on. But Joe Burrow will be coming in at number 4. I mean, Joe's the man. I don't know what to say. The guy, the thing I would start off with to say is the guy can just play. Period. That's what I come down to. I think last year I said he's the natural, or when he was coming out. That's what I look at. I don't know if there's one area I look at and go, he's the best at that in football, but in every area I look at, I go, whoa, well, Joe Burrow's towards the top. Every area. It doesn't matter what it is. You can go through it and compare and whatever, and I go, oh, Joe Burrow's up there. He might not be number 1, but he's like in the top 5 in every important category there is in football. So I think that's where it's really impressive. All right? He is like – the other thing I want to say, again, he would be the ultimate, can be surgical and run the system and almost be like his idol in life, Drew Brees, where you can just go, oh my gosh, it's just one accurate, perfect throw after another. But then the ability to throw with pressure on him, or like we talk about so much, and very important to me, Ahmed, is just protection breaks down, people aren't open, and the off-schedule stuff. I mean, it's through the roof. It's through the roof, really, with all 4 of these guys. He is really good in that area. Maybe he's actually better in this area than the guy we're going to talk about at number 3 in a minute. Burrow's ability to move in the pocket, arguably the best in the whole league, working the pocket. Working the pocket, sliding to the right spots, avoiding a sack, and then being in a throwing position and still throwing. And you go, man, he moved a lot, but he didn't really move anywhere. He just stayed in this little area here and still got a big play. That's where he is like through the roof good. He really is. He is the most slippery mofo in football when it comes to avoiding sacks and doing that. And then, last but not least, just to speak to him a little bit. And this is 2 years in a row we've seen this. And, of course, the other guy did this is in the top 4 we're going to be talking about. And to me, this is where it's special. Like, he went to the Super Bowl with the worst Super Bowl offensive line in the history of the sport. To me, you have to be special to get there when it's like your team's in the combo for maybe the worst pass-protecting O-line in football, but, hey, you're in the Super Bowl. They're in the Super Bowl one reason. Burrow smarts, get the ball out of my hands quick, right? Oh, wait, let me change the protection, and then let me just make magic happen, even though people are bearing down on me. Oh, I'll take the shot and get crushed and make the throw, or I'll make the guy miss and be slippery Joe and make a play outside of the pocket or in the pocket. I mean, come on. What do you got to say? I mean, the same thing with Mahomes the year before. I mean, one of the poor offensive lines in football, pass protecting the last half of that year, they still go to the Super Bowl. It just speaks still with these guys and what they can do on their own. But yes, it's brains, it's brawn, it's power and accuracy, along with touch. I mean, like I said, he's just a natural, and of course he's clutch gene to go along with it, and has a great leadership and what do I want to say, influence on his football team because of the man he is.
He's got an aura around him.
Aura, that's the way to say it.
The confidence that he has, it appears that he instills that into his
100%.
Into his teammates, yes. Except for maybe his offensive line last year. Yeah, he did lead the NFL. 51 sacks last year he took. Maybe a lesser quarterback would have taken more, but to still perform at a high level, even taking that beating, I think is one of the things that stands out with him.
It definitely does.
So what did you notice? Biggest difference? We didn't get to see him all of his rookie year, right, out with that knee injury. What was the biggest difference you saw between that first year and the second year for him?
Number one thing is arm strength. And that's something I got into him with yesterday, and we'll talk about it.
It improved.
It improved. So that's where, again, where people go, you can't improve arm strength or whatever. Bullshit. Like bullshit. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks get better in those areas here. And Burrow, he assessed after year 1. Here's the interesting thing. Yeah, year 1, he said he missed some throws where he goes, if I had more power, I would have got it. And then he realized the elements in the AFC North were going to be an issue, and that he had to throw the ball with more power to cut through the wind in some of these stadiums and all that. Right. So that was a really cool little nugget he gave me. And I think that's where he went back and he started to go, all right, so what do I do here to kind of improve in this area? And he did. He worked with Jordan Palmer, and they got after a little bit. And I think the thing I saw was, hey, a guy that was maybe more assured of himself within the offense and everything that way. I think they played a better style, too, of, maybe – play action pass, protect it, let him throw the ball down the field a little bit. But the arm strength, I think, is the biggest thing I look at. We saw a lot of the things we saw last year in year one. It's just I think he grew, he got smarter, and he improved in that area to where I think the wow throws and wow plays went way up, and they were game changers throughout the year for the Bengals.
He led the NFL in both completion percentage and yards per attempt.
Come on.
Recent quarterbacks who have done that, Drew Brees in 2017.
Sure,
his idol Tony Romo did it in 2014. Tom Brady back in 2007. So it's pretty rare. If you were watching, you saw the graphic there, 13 touchdown passes last year on passes of 20 or more yards downfield. He had one the previous year.
Yes, right.
But does he do any of that without Jamar Chase? Here's one where this is the hardest part for you in this exercise, is separating what the guy does with the supporting cast and what he would do with just an average team here.
Right.
It's hard to say that he would have done this much stuff and maybe wowed you as much without having Jamar Chase last year.
Maybe not. You're right. I still think, though, if they have another good receiver, let's say they didn't draft Jamar Chase and they drafted Penny Sewell, right? And then they took a receiver at the top of the second round. I still think their offense would have been extremely dangerous, and we would have seen what we need to see with Joe Burrow. What happens with Jamar Chase and guys like that sometimes is it doesn't necessarily like, oh, man, he's helping Joe Burrow. What it really does in my eyes is goes, look, now everything's available for him, and it shows you what he's capable of.
Yeah.
That's the way I think I look at it a little bit more, where now it's just like, whoa, these opportunities, and oh, shit, he can take advantage of all of them. Look at this guy. He's unreal. So, yes, he did help him statistically and the way it looked and the sexiness of all that, sure. But I still think if they got another good receiver without Jamar Chase, we're still looking at one of the best quarterbacks in football and one of the better offenses in football. And to your point with the completion percentage and then the yards per attempt, to me, when you said that and some of those names there, man, those are impressive names. And to me, I look at the Brady one in 2007 and him as being really impressive because not to take away from the other guys, but it's pretty aggressive down the field passing. This was not like, oh, the whole offense is around maybe Drew Brees and Sean Payton, and we're just going to dissect you 6 and 8 yards at a time. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to say anything bad about that. But this was different where it's like, whoa, he's dropping back and looking for the 20-yard in cut. Whoa, it's one-on-one, and he's throwing a bomb to Jamar Chase. Even though the concept was open over here, he's going to take Jamar because he's aggressive. He's going to throw a 30-yard back shoulder. He's going to scramble and then throw a 40-yard post down the middle and still throw for 70%. That's where it's a special. And then Ahmed, the guys you just talked about had fucking amazing offensive lines. And this guy did it with none of that. And that's where, to me, it's another level. And you don't really appreciate how awesome he is. And I probably say this a lot of the good quarterbacks. But just when you start to watch how many times you go, oh, damn, he was under pressure in that game a lot more than I gave him credit for at the time.
Sure.
Oh, holy shit, this is 7 throws in a row. He's been under pressure, and they've gotten a first down on. And you go, you kind of block it out and take it for granted after a while because he's so good and natural at it. So Joe B., he's the man. There's no doubt.
So he was 26 before he played a down in 2020. He was 17th last year coming off the injury.
Yep. And I even said at the time, I said, really, the way he played warranted higher than 17. But because of the injury,
concerns,
and I wasn't sure where he would be at early in the year and everything there, and that's why I made him 17.
Let's tag it on the offensive line here because we've mentioned it a couple times. Led the NFL with taking 51 sacks last year. But he had a league-high 60% completion percentage and yards per attempt when under pressure.
That's amazing,
according to Pro Football Focus. So he handled it very well.
He does
when he was under pressure.
Right.
And now he'll have a revamped offensive line. I mean, what is possible here? Do you see that as a significant improvement, what they've done on the offensive line in the offseason, and what could that mean for Joe Burrow this year?
I do think it's significant. I do. I mean, got to see Ted Karras yesterday. He looked good, and you could tell Joe was happy to have him. I look at their O-line, and, yeah, I mean, it's we brought up Mahomes in Kansas City, and this is the kind of adjustment they made after they lost the Super Bowl.
Like there's one, Jonah Williams.
That's the only guy.
The lone holdover.
The only holdover, and he's the only guy that's worth being a holdover. Jackson Carman started pretty early in the year, and then he got hurt and he came out and he's young, but so he's kind of a holdover / now going to be a staple, but yeah. I think that's a significant improvement. I'm not going to say it goes from like what Kansas City did with getting Orlando Brown and Joe Tooney and drafting a second-round guard center out of Oklahoma, but I still think that's going to change their football team. And you're going to get Joe Burrow more time. Oh, yeah, 2, okay, he's not going to be under pressure as much, and now we're going to let T. Higgins and Jamar Chase run down the field even more, so we don't have to worry about always getting the ball out of our hands quickly. Oh, 3, now Joe Mixon's going to actually have holes on a weekly basis. And now you're going to have to worry about the play action even being scarier off of that, which they were pretty good at play action to begin with, without a run game. So that's where I think, Ahmed, to your point, and especially in the AFC North, that's where it's going to be huge. Again, that's another thing I think I would like to say.
Yeah.
They did this in the AFC North with just bad motherfuckers on defensive lines everywhere falling off trees, and they're still won it. And that's just, I think, speaks to Joe Burrow.
So that's the question going into next year. If they have improved the glaring weakness on their team, which was the offensive line, where do they stack up in this AFC North? You said it's a very good division. You got Baltimore in there. You got Cleveland. You got Pittsburgh. Our friends over at PointsBet have given the odds here, and they're currently tied with Baltimore, plus 200. Cleveland not far behind, plus 210.
Wow.
And Pittsburgh at plus 900. So Cincinnati, they could be better, but they may be worse record-wise. I mean, that was a magical run last year. Things have got to work out. No matter how good you are, things have to work out to make it through the playoffs, get to the Super Bowl.
Yep, few bounces, stay healthy, all that, sure.
So it's not a guarantee they're going to find themselves back deep in the playoffs again next year.
No, it's not a guarantee. It's probably the number one question asked for me in Cincinnati yesterday. In the airport, in the car ride to the facility, like, are we good? Can we go back to the Super Bowl? And I just listen, you're going to be good. This is what I kept saying to them. Like, hey, I don't know if you're going to make a playoff run and get to the Super Bowl. I don't know. But I do know this. You're going to be in the conversation here for a time here. Like, you're not going anywhere. So, even if they were to have a Super Bowl letdown and miss out on the playoffs, I thought we're talking 9-8 or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't think that their roster is real. There's real confidence there. It's hard to find a real weak spot. They're coached well on both sides of the football. So, they're going to be relevant for a while. And I would think in my heart of hearts, I want to say, yeah, they're going to be more than relevant. They're going to be a playoff team that's going to be dangerous every year. That's kind of how I feel. But like you said, it's a real division, and it's maybe the most talented division in football.
That's what these quarterbacks do. They put you in the conversation every year.
They do.
No matter how bad your offensive line is, maybe your defense. We've seen it with Russell Wilson in Seattle. They're in the conversation.
That's what a great quarterback does. That's exactly right. You don't have to have a great quarterback to win the Super Bowl, but the great quarterback covers a lot of holes can get you through parts of the season, like you're saying. If we're struggling, the offensive line's hurt, a few receivers are hurt, and you come away from a 4-game stretch where we were less than, and we went 3-1. Why'd you go 3-1? Because our quarterback's awesome. That's how we survived that. And that's what the great quarterback can do. He can keep you in that conversation. And even to last year, you look at last year and you break it down. Even in their losses, there's only one game that they weren't in, and that was the Cleveland Brown game at home. Other than that, I mean, their chance to win the game, I mean, nobody just kind of dominated them other than the Browns on that day. And I think that was the week after OBJ got released or traded or released from the Browns. But, yeah, I think we got a really good football team with young talent and real belief behind them as well.
And how bad they've been for so long is almost like a distant memory right now. It's easy to forget how much of a struggle it has been for them for a while. But the Bengals are now in the mix, we think, for the next few years to come.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.